Video number 3. Discussing, Tim Ostendorf, back again, usually with all things Joan Sutherland, but today with 6 different sopranos singing the fun little recitative and cavatina from Cavatina from Linda de Chamounix by Donizetti, sung by, I have at least 6 recordings. I'm sure I have more, but I thought I'd start with these 6, and who knows, maybe we'll go further. Oh, and in case you forgot, in honor of the 6 sopranos, 6 olives, but of course you'll notice there's only 4 left because we're working on soprano number 3. And who could that be? Oh, excuse me. Should have swallowed first. So, this 3rd soprano, this was recorded in 1969. She's kind of a controversial soprano, and I've taken some heat for comparing her sometimes, not all the time, to Beverly Sills. Sometimes there's a phrase in her silvery, shimmery voice that reminds me of Beverly Sills. Not all the time. She has a very unique way of articulating her coloratura. Some have called it claccatura. Yes, that's right. The Dutch soprano Cristina Deutekom. Look, I mean, come on. Can you not at least love that picture? Look at that. Obviously in costume for who knows what. This is a very, very, very difficult 2 CD set to come by under the Legendary Voices label. I don't even know who puts that out, to be honest with you. Originally, this was made in Germany, I think. And originally it was a 2 CD set put out, or well, not CD, it was done in 1969, so it was an LP set put out by Philips. And I found, the one and only time I've been to Europe, I found the Philips reissue on CD in some little Parisian record shop, and it was like $75. And I was like, how old was I, 25 or something at the time? I'm like, $75 for that? You gotta be kidding me. Since then, I did come across it and bought it. You'll notice the CD case is a little sad, and, well, it involved a long night of cocktails by the fire, that's all I'm saying. And luckily it didn't burn, and here it is for us to hear her version of Linda's aria from Linda de Chamounix. And I've got the music here that I'll be following. So hopefully you've been following my videos of this aria. We started with Joan Sutherland, of course, then we moved on to Beverly Sills, and also talking about the different ornamentation. And I wish I had wish I could sing this so that I could just sing it quote unquote straight. Just the way it's written, so then you could hear all the different variations. Not a single, understandably, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to do the variations and ornaments and all that. That's part of the whole bel canto kind of thing, right? But it would be nice to have just a clean version and then show the different variations, but it's pretty clear where those variations are. And so we have the somewhat controversial Dutch soprano Cristina Deutekom, age 38 when this was recorded in 1969. The age thing isn't a big deal. I just thought it would be interesting to see, and it gets more interesting when I play another soprano a couple times from now. And you'll understand what I mean by the claccatura. This doesn't have a lot of really fast articulation, which is when you can really hear it. Like she was famous for her version of Queen of the Night from Mozart's Magic Flute, and you can really hear it in that. And sometimes it sounds like the that kind of thing. And so hence the claccatura. It's very distinct articulation between the fast notes. So anyway, let's get started and see how she does. Good tempo for the opening, I think. Her voice has a very steely quality to it. She does have a very shimmery, silvery quality, but also very steely. And so she almost kind of sounds pissed, doesn't she? Like, I can't believe he left. He didn't even meet me here. I'm too late, and the you know what is gone. So it's just kind of a nice take on it. A very different sound, I think. I mean, did you hear that? Like, but not as much as I suffer. Like, she's mad. And it's funny, it actually is marked in the score rallentando, but she actually speeds up. And once again, maybe it's that excitement, like, yes, he's an unknown painter right now, but his talent will get him by. It's interesting that she and or the conductor have decided to speed up where it's marked rallentando. Just thought that was interesting. Impressive. She obviously has a pretty big voice, and that she could go up to that high note and actually diminuendo on it. And you heard a little of the gurgle gurgle in that little roulade before that, but it's not as noticeable in this. And someday we'll play something where it's really noticeable. But when she in her later career, she ended up having a stroke, I think. But before then. Obviously, although she actually sang after the stroke, and that's another whole story. But anyway, she ended up doing roles like Turandot, which we all know Joan Sutherland recorded later in her career, but she actually, Deutekom actually sang it on stage. She did Abagaia, or however the heck you pronounce it, Abagaia from Nabucco, which is a notorious voice wrecker and stuff like that. So interesting that she did these much larger roles. Leonora and Il Trovatore. Of course, Sutherland did that too, but Sutherland's kind of an anomaly in that we know she had a much bigger voice than most quote-unquote colorateurs. So she's an interesting mix of voices in a way. And some of these words, which I may not have said yet, la nostra sorte unita, our lot in life will be united, unita in terra, in ciel sarà, in earth and in heaven will be. I just love that. They're so much in love that no matter what, in earth and heaven, their lot in life will be joined. Whatever. And that actually is exactly as it's written in the score, which is interesting. And she has this I don't know, frayed quality to her voice, which normally wouldn't be perhaps considered an asset or a compliment. But I think of it as this sort of almost very endearing quality, this sort of kind of a little on the edge and a little perhaps there's a little vulnerability there, which I'm getting. Is that any of that make sense? By the way, I pointed this out in my first video, but I did tie my own tie. I tied it on camera, so you have to watch that one with my vintage dressing gown. Maybe it's my new thing, like what's his name, Mr. Rogers. Remember, he'd come into his little house and put on his little shoes. Maybe this is my little thing, and I tie my tie and I start my video and off we go. That's where you can. That's where you can really hear it. Might as well hear it again. And so, can you hear that? I find it amazing, because I don't know how the heck she does that. I hope she's not standing there with her finger in her mouth. But by the way, I mean, I talked about somebody who maybe sang it. This actually is probably the closest to what's written in the score. She does add some ornaments and things like that, but this is probably the closest. So if you want, I wouldn't say the cleanest version, but the most consistent to the score, this would be an interesting version to start with, and then hear some of the other variations. But I've got to hear some of that gurgling again. Gotta go back. Here we go. So see, she doesn't take out those couple measures like Sills did. So probably, like I said, most faithful to the score. Very interesting. But she has some ornaments here and there, and a couple cadenzas. Once again, the controversial soprano Cristina Deutekom. And who's gonna be next? We skip quite a few years. We skip to 21 years later to 1991. Obviously, I'm sure there's sopranos that did it in between. But although what's interesting is kind of the 70s and the 80s. There a lot of the early music movement came in, and a lot of people were kind of getting away from the canary fanciers, how they very derogatively called the people who were just supposedly interested in the voice, which probably some people would call me, but that's okay, because that's what I'm here for. I'm here for entertainment, not necessarily education. But maybe you did learn something about this aria. I don't know. What's next? Who's next? I don't know. Ooh, I gotta remember how to... I gotta get a camera person. I said that last time.